Hello, I'm going to allow the AI to read a passage from my novel, Making Sense of Pastime.
Making Sense of Pastime, novel. Third revised edition, Lawrence G. Taylor, excerpt, quotations, that invisibility to which I refer. I am not complaining, nor am I protesting either. It is sometimes advantageous to be unseen, although it is most often rather wearing on the nerves. Ralph Ellison, Invisible Man. The whole world is full of people, like me in my situation, who contain many strands, people who don't have a single tribal identity but many identities. Versus Naipaul. When a man begins to know himself a little, he will see himself many things that are bound to horrify him. So long as a man is not horrified at himself, he knows nothing about himself. P. D. Uspensky. 12. London. My unemployment irritated me, but I remained patient and accepted the situation for what it was. I kept my positive attitude. I made new friends in Earl's Court and was astonished by their lifestyle. Some had a steady job in the past and managed to find work when their unemployment benefits expired, while others were on the dole for a more extended period but seemed unfazed by reality. How did they accomplish this? I never asked them because I wasn't interested in fiddling with the system or following a similar pattern in life. In Earl's Court, there were West Indian students with whom I struck up a friendship. Out of curiosity, I continued to associate with petty criminals. I had known a few good-for-nothings in Guyana, mostly from my neighborhood. I would spend time on street corners in their company to kill time or to listen to their conversations. Conversations mostly revolved around movies, sports, and dating experiences. One or two arguments would lead to a fistfight somewhere to settle the matter. A handful had fathered children left, right, and center. Drinking and womanizing were regular pastimes for some or most of them. One or more held a steady job or part-time, while others worked whenever the opportunity arose. I couldn't help but wonder what their lives were like when they attended school. The criminals in Earl's Court were petty and hardened, desiring a comfortable life without working a single day. Some had only completed primary schooling, while some had received an excellent secondary education, better than mine. The latter had previously studied for a profession, such as law or business administration. I learned that from their usual boasting about one thing or another, their ambitions had veered off course due to racehorse gambling, womanizing, or becoming criminals. Some had served time in prison for false checks, home burglary, or pimping. The petty criminals were skilled at shoplifting. They made it appear effortless, doing mostly groceries and off-license wine. I occasionally visited their homes, socialized, and consumed stolen food and wine. My shoplifting started when they began jokingly calling me a sponger, but mostly a wimp. It stemmed from my aversion to shoplifting. However, unhappy with their negative impression, I dared to demonstrate that I wasn't. My male pride was on the line. Compared to the other advanced stuff they were doing, shoplifting, though illegal, seemed like a joke. I quickly mastered the art of shoplifting. I only stole food and wine from the off-license, which I keep primarily hidden in the inner pockets of my Macintosh coat. The free items I received gave me joy and the opportunity to save money on food, and my shoplifting became a habit. A few months later, a plainclothes security guard would have apprehended me if a friend hadn't sent me a warning signal. After nearly being caught, I decided to part with the bad apples. I cursed myself for having chosen such a group of friends. My foolish indulgence had come to an end. It was a rude awakening that scared the hell out of me. I thought about my parents, the shame and disgrace. It would have been entirely my fault. The situation had nothing to do with my upbringing. My reaction might have been excessive in retrospect. As a first-time offender, I'd almost certainly get a warning. Nevertheless, I did not want my name to appear in police files. I remained grateful to Jim, a bad apple from a respected and well-known Guyanese family. I was always afraid of ending up in jail. 15. Georgetown. With 4 passes in O-level exams, I could join ranks with my pals Benny, Luke, and Winston in the country's bureaucracy if I wanted. Now that opportunity came, the attraction was gone, which was strange, I admitted, smiling and baffling my mates. I had toyed with the idea of becoming a civil servant for years. It was a profession with social status, enough to strengthen one's ego and impress some class-conscious girls. I was bored with chasing after any girl who believed she was special. But that's another matter. Entering the civil service to impress upper-class girls was ridiculous. "What are your plans for the summer?" my father asked me. He delivered the question in his usual sly way, alluding to my current sleeping behavior till 10, an hour before lunch. I had no idea what I wanted from life or what life had in store for me this summer and beyond. My answer was that I was considering studying with a couple of friends and retaking maths. I added that I planned to find a summer job at a barrister's office. My dad appeared to have accepted what I told him, but I had no idea what he was up to. Usually, when he had no follow-up question or a concluding remark, he would return to the same subject, albeit from a different angle. It was a strategy to catch you off guard and discredit you. It was a way that some teachers used. I knew his way, as did my mother and siblings. But I never got used to it. As far as I can remember, my father's deception troubled me in early and later puberty. After being caught off guard, I could not defend myself, stammered, and sounded foolish. As an adult, I became aware of my tendency to blame myself in some social situations. I readily accepted the blame and apologized. That was after I had demonstrated hostility in the face of an unfair demand. I still wasn't sure whether my angry outburst had to do with childhood experiences, similarly excessive guilt, and taking on the role of a victim. The suggestion for a summer job in a law firm came from a shy, if not close, friend. His name was Bertram, and he lived in the neighborhood. We sang in the choir of St. Philip's Anglican Church. His father worked as a sanitation inspector. Bertram stammered and joked about his sleepwalking and sleep-talking. He regularly received spankings from his mother, a headmistress in a Catholic primary school with a fearful reputation. All this and more fascinated me about Bertram. He was bright as hell and shining above the level of his classmates in primary and secondary school. At 11, Bertram had won a scholarship to the best secondary school, Queen's College. He later won a national scholarship, allowing him to attend a top British university. I later learned Bertram had decided to study law at Oxbridge University. For years, I kept him in mind. He excelled academically despite his neurological trouble. Through friends, I later learned that Bertram became one of Britain's brilliant barristers, QC, and High Court judge. I took Bertram's suggestion of easily accessible temporary employment in a law firm, but it did not bear fruit. My father had the idea of working in his former department, and I subtly avoided it. Instead, I offered to deliver dresses my mother had sewn for customers. She had supported my initial need to take the summer break in strides, and, as always, I was grateful for her support. I thought about the years of support from my mother. Did she spoil me? I'm not complaining because having both parents who were strict guardians would have been hell. I needed pampering, at least sometimes.
Okay, so that was it. A bit of facts mixed with some fantasies, not to bore the reader. Okay.